Hi, this is Eric with CAD Avenue, and today I'm going to be reviewing some of the concepts that I've been going over in the last 8 years or so with Mech-Q and now most recently our AViCAD product. This is AViCAD 2020. Some of the other videos you'll see in YouTube are using older versions of AViCAD, but the concepts are all the same. So a lot of people, they ask me, where's your latest video on that reflects 2020? Well, they're all essentially the same, but today I just thought I'd do a quick video just going over some of the same concepts. And I'm going to be doing a 3D model with Mech-Q. So the first thing we want to do is click on the new button here and then choose the proper template. For Imperial, you want to choose the PCAD. For metric, PCAD ISO. So we're going to be using the Imperial units here today. I'm going to close down this drawing here. So we just have the one drawing open. Then click on the View tab here to go in the Southwest isometric. And using our holding down the command and the middle button on our mouse, I'm just kind of dragging around here. Again, this video is going to be more elementary for people that aren't familiar too much with CAD. Down at the bottom here we have several icons. You want to make sure that the orthogonal is turned on, or even better yet, polar tracking is better for 3D. So if I click this and activate it, right click and then choose the angle, snap angles here. I have mine set to 90, which is good for today. So basically the way I'm going to be inputting this is using the line command. I know there's advanced methods to doing this, but for those just getting started, I think getting familiar with the line command is essential. So type L for line, and then we're going to be snapping to this green dash line here to make sure our cursor is straight, and then typing in the appropriate distance. So in this example I'm using a 12-foot run, so I'll type in 12 feet and then pressing the enter key. Now I'm zooming up with my the scroll wheel on my mouse there. Now at this point I could go up in space, I could go over this way or this way. So I'm going to show you how I do working in an upward, or what's called a Z direction. So I'm holding the shift key on my keyboard, and at the same time I'm pointing the direction upward. And then here I'm just going to type in the distance. So I could type in 4 feet and then press enter. So that gives me a line going up vertically 4 feet in my 3D model or my sketch. If I wanted to continue on, I could just type the L command again, snap to this point, and then again arbitrarily put in my distance here. Let's say 6 feet. Maybe we go over this way with it, another 6 feet. So I think if you're just getting going with CAD, this kind of input is really important to understand. This way we can come back and then put our elbows on this construction line and use it that way. And that way we know, these distances that we require are what we've just inputted. I should mention too, in the piping tools, there's a 3D dimensioning tool in here that a lot of people might not know about. And this corresponds with the size of the annotations that correspond to your dim scale. Let me show you what I mean by that. So if you type in dim scale, right now it's set to 1. The higher the number, the larger your dimensions and your notes are going to appear. And this has to do with scales. So the scale that we're going to be plotting it at. So for smaller scales, we're going to need larger text, and for larger scales, smaller text. So I think in this example, I'm just going to use the dim scale of 12. 12 equates to roughly, you can go to this cheat sheet here, which I'll show you real quick, cadavenue.com/DWG scale. And so on this page, you'll be able to see on the left side here, it's hard to read, but when you go to this page, it'll be easier. 1 inch equals 1 foot. So that's basically the scale that I'm actually working in, or that's the scale that I'm going to be plotting in. All right, so if I've typed dim scale and I've set that to 12, and I come over to piping tools and do the 3D dimensioning, I can pick, you know, these points, press enter, and then I'm just going to get this dimension put in here for me. In this case, I'm going to need to flip this or mirror it, so I'm going to type mirror for M and then F for flip, and that's going to give me the proper orientation. Now the reason why I have to flip that is because I'm working in 3D space, so depending on the view that I'm working in, this is going to be different. Let's say if I was viewing it from this side, of course I'd have to flip it the other way, so that's the reason why we have that in there. So this dimension here, it says 48.000. Well, that format comes into play when you go into your dimension settings. So if I type in DDIM for dimension style, and I go into the modify command, and then units here, I'm working in a decimal setting, so I could change this to fractional, for example, and my dimensions are going to end up like this. You can set your precision here as well. Being that I've created this dimension already, I need to update it, but then any future dimensions I create will show correctly as fractional. So let me just, in order to simplify this video, let me just put this dimension in again, and you'll see what I mean. So I press enter, and then I locate the dimension line the way I want it. I flip it with the F key, and then I mirror it with the M key to get my desired display or orientation or whatever. So now that I have these points inputted in, I can come over and I can choose the fitting I want, the type of fitting here. I can choose the size. Let's change this to 10, let's say. And I can choose my draw mode, which is 3D. You gotta make sure this is set as well. Now once I've set these things, Mech-Q will remember them, so I don't have to keep coming back. But you need to set these up initially, and then we're ready to draw. So like I said, put in your elbows first, or you might want to put in, let's say, a flange. For example, we could start off with a flange if we wanted to. So let's go ahead and do that. Double click on this. That opens up the flange menu. I can draw a double flange here. And my pick point is going to be at the end of this line, for example. And then I point it in the upstream direction, which is this way. And then that puts in my flange. Let's go ahead and just continue it with the straight piece. The reason why I'm doing this is because it's going to continue on from where I left off. So if you press the enter key, that accepts that point, and then I can just simply snap over these points here, and then finally to my last point. And then finally, at the end, we want to press the Enter key to complete the run. Now, a lot of people miss that step. They don't press the Enter key, and then they wonder why they don't see any pipe. But the reason why is you need to always press the Enter key when you're done with the input. For example, if I wanted to, let's say, put a elbow between, this little piece here, what I have to do in Mech-Q is erase this item and then come up to the piping. Again, it's remembering the size here and all the specs, and then we can just select the T, and we can draw it from the center. Now, I want to snap to the center of that, but I don't have that set in my ESnap settings. So what I can do is I can temporarily turn it on just by shift right clicking and then choosing midpoint snap. And now that you can see that little triangle kind of appears, so I left click there, and my upstream direction is going to be the direction of flow. So again, I'm going to point it this way, making sure that I snap to that green dash line. Then I can come back and then just put the pieces of pipe on each side. I can just snap to the node here, to the node here, and then press Enter. And do the same for the opposite side here. One thing I should mention as well, again, this is review really, based on the videos we have, is down here, if you right click on the icon down here, the square icon, you'll see ESnap Settings. And this dialog, I've turned on Endpoint and Node. These are essential for 3D, at least these two. You might have some other ones turned on, but I also have this E-Track and ESnap tracking turned on. So these two are turned on, and that allows me to do something like this, which I wanted to. I don't think I've ever showed you this part here, but let's say if I wanted to have a flange, let's say 2 feet from the end of this pipe run. Let me show you how I would do that. So I would select my flange, and then I would highlight over that endpoint there, and then I would project my line. I'm not even snapping at this point, I'm just projecting, and then entering in 2 feet. And now my point is where I want it. It's 2 feet away from the end there without having to draw a construction line. Yeah, so I just wanted to show you that because now I can just snap to this part, and I'm done. Now, because my upstream was this way, if I were to draw, let's say if I were to continue on by drawing just a straight line, the last point is on the left side of that flange instead of on the right side, which is the upstream side. So that's kind of important as well to remember. I'll draw a pipe on this side as well. Let me just finish this off by drawing a valve in, for those of you who wanted to see that. So I come up to my piping menu here, I select the valve icon here. In this menu, a lot of people will miss this as well. There's the type pull down here, which allows you to select different kinds of valves. So be aware of that. If you're needing, let's say, a butterfly valve or a gate valve or whatever you need, you can select that here, and that way it will appear correctly in your bill of materials as well. So it gave me a warning that I just can't put a valve. I need a flange. So if I hit the enter key again and go ahead and draw a flange in here. We'll do a weld neck flange. Again, the types are here just like the valve types. So look in this box down here for the types of flanges that you need. Let's pick this one and our install point, the upstream. I'm holding down my shift key. So that puts in the valve correctly, and then I can come back in and put that that gate valve in there. So if you look at these two icons, we don't want to select it from the center. We want to select it from the end, which is this one. You see that little X there? It means I can press enter for my last point. Now it's wanting the orientation of the actuator, so we'll just put it over this way. And we're done. So the final part of this video, again, I want to keep it short. I'm going to leave some links at the bottom referencing some more detailed videos and related videos, is plotting this. So there's two ways to plot in AViCAD or in CAD. One is model space, which is here, is the tab that we're currently in, and the other is paper space, which would be either layout 1 or layout 2 in this example. Paper space is a little bit different than plotting in model space because you have to set up the scale of the sheet. Let me just quickly show you how you would do that. So let's say here's our paper. Click on this. This is an 8.5 by 11 sheet. To change that, you right click here and you go to page setup. Right now you can see it's 8.5 by 11. And this is going to correlate to your printer setting. Now if you look closely at this the paper space here, you have this rectangular line that runs around everything. Well, that is the hole that pierces through the paper that views whatever is down in model space. So you have to think of it as, now let's see if I can demonstrate this. So you have this rectangle, which is your paper. Let's say we're in paper space here. And then down here you have your model space. Now model space is infinite. It's not the size of your paper like I'm showing here. It's much bigger. It's eternity, right? So let me just enlarge this to make my point. So this would be the model space. This would be this model space, and this would be the paper viewing down into the model. Okay. I have a video on this I can reference, but essentially when I click on the layout view, this is that piece of paper that I just showed you, and if I want to view down into model space, I type MS, and that's the hole going down to model space through your paper. We can zoom in and out looking down into model space. And the important thing to remember is before you plot, you have to make sure that this is scaled right in your drawing. And the way that you do that, come down here while you're still, peering through that paper, to come down here and select the scale that you need. Remember in our case, our scale was set to 1. That's how you would do that. Let's come up here to the view menu, select 3D views, and then go into that same isometric view. Now when we do that, our scale is going to change again because we have essentially gone into a completely different view. So in this case, let's select 1/2 inch equals 1 foot, which is correct. And then we can, just like in model space, we can pan around to situate our drawing on the sheet the way we want it. And once we've got it the way we want it, then we can lock it in by just typing in PS for paper space, and then from here we can plot it. So, but now we've got this drawing that's in color that we want in black and white. So what we can do is we can go back into model space, type the shade command, shade the model, and then we're going to temporarily turn these colors in the drawing to come over here and select a color, and we're going to change it to the 254 color. This is just temporarily, we can undo this later. Then plot, preview, and then we're ready to go. This is going to be your best way to plot a solid model like this and make it clear at the same time. And we could plot a schedule on this sheet. I'll refer to my other video about that. And one thing we didn't touch on is layers. Now layers essentially are ways we can organize our drawing more efficiently. When we created this dimension line, we put it on the default layer of 0. So what we really want to do, since we really want this dimension line, we need to move this to put it on the text layer, for example. So this way, when we look at the construction layer that we were using, you can see it here. It's on layer 0. When we isolate this layer, which we can do by going into the Home tab and then going to the layers, and here we have some tools here. We can isolate the layer here just to see, press enter, just to see what's on this layer. And of course we want this layer turned off, you know, before we plot it. That's usually a good thing. So directly underneath this is a unisolate layer, which kind of restores the original state. And then we can go into the layer menu and then simply just turn this off or freeze it before we plot it. We can also just, instead of doing that, we could leave it on and then just click the no plot icon here, and that way it would still be there, but it wouldn't show up in our plot anywhere. So I hope this has been helpful. Not too much information all at once, I hope. And we'll see you in the next video.